I'm Dimi, and I am a remote viewer. I am also a specialist in nuclear medicine and a homeopathic doctor, but this is not the point of my presentation today. So you who are following this means you already know what remote viewing is, but for the help of newcomers, I will bring some explanation. Remote viewing is about collecting perception and impression about unseen facts, objects, situation, far distant in time or space outside the normal range of human senses. The remote viewer must be blind to the target and must record in any format data presented in the sessions. This ability is common to all people, but like any other skill, you need to practice and to be consistent in order to strengthen this muscle. So what about me? I started remote viewing 3 years ago. I started with Laurie Williams, and then Daz Smith, which is my teacher and my mentor now, took me under his wing almost 1.5 years now, and oh God, the most amazing years of my life. So let's proceed further. I'm a part of a small group of remote viewers called Hellfire Club, as you see in this slide. This club was started by Daz Smith, who was also the web designer of this beautiful slide, this sketch. And what about this, our group? Together we try to bring light to unsolved esoteric mysteries or to offer explanation for some hard to decipher situations when the usual tools can't do that. So let's proceed further and see what's next. The remote viewers for this target were Coral, Darby, Daz, Dennis, Henny, Naim and Rick. The target was the Hitchhiker Effect. The target number reference was 794-965. The tasking for this target was the Hitchhiker Effect of Jonathan Axelrod from Skinwalker Ranch. The viewer described the so-called Hitchhiker Effect related to Jonathan Axelrod and the way which this effect is passed on to others. The sub-tasks were describe the source of this phenomenon, describe the purpose, reason of this effect, describe the process and mechanism which underlies this phenomenon, what is special or different about Jonathan Axelrod or to those to whom is passed on from other people, which made them sensitive to pick up this phenomenon and to transmit it to another person. Let's proceed further. What about Jonathan Axelrod? Well, Jonathan Axelrod is the fictitious name of a real individual, also a character with a major role in the development of the events that later led to the creation of the book Skinwalker at the Pentagon, an insider account of the secret government UFO program by James Tilakatsky, Colm Kelleher and George Knapp. He was an aerospace engineer in naval intelligence. He was well versed in investigating anomalies, utilizing a thoroughly professional approach. He was the lead investigator of the infamous Tic Tac case from Nimitz aircraft carrier. He had personally interviewed all the pilots and several radar operators on USS Princeton and USS Nimitz. This report was later disclosed by the New York Times in 2017. We already talked about the book. Let's move further. The book, as described by the author, is a collection of documented data and facts representing the description of this genesis and execution of a unique program run from 2008 to 2010 from the Defense Intelligence Agency of the United States that was the first officially fully funded study of UAP since the termination in 1969 of the infamous Project Blue Book, which was run by the United States Air Force. Military interest in this project led to a 2-year research program, government-funded with $22 million, that resulted in over 144 reports on UAP activity, as well as the paranormal and psychic correlation to UAPs. Robert Bigelow, an American businessman, owned the farm from 1996 to 2016. He founded NIDS, National Institute for Discovery Science, through which he funded research and study on various fringe science and paranormal topics. These events, which are the purpose of our remote viewing target, have occurred starting with 2009, as the scientific multidisciplinary team began to visit and to study the phenomenon. The Skinwalker Ranch is a property of approximately 500 acres in Uinta Basin, Utah, USA, that is reputed to be the site of paranormal and UAP-related events, later called the Disneyland of paranormal events. The very name Skinwalker Ranch alludes to one of the most terrifying entities in Navajo culture, skinwalkers, known as evil-minded witches who mastered the ability of changing into different creatures. Well, the definition of Hitchhiker Effect I put here from an interview that the owner of the ranch, Robert Bigelow, had with George Knapp. He also said that most people who spend more than a day at Skinwalker Ranch brought something home with them from the property. The reports of this infectious phenomenon have become so plentiful that it is now known as the Hitchhiker Effect. So let's move and see what he says about it. So bear with me, it will start soon.
That, and so hitchhikers being that you take things home with you. Everybody took things home with them. I took things to my house. Things happened to my wife and to me, different things. So everybody took things home. We all, we did, but we didn't know that. Gee, it was like going to be kind of permanent. We didn't know that. That it's going to stay with you for maybe for years and years or the rest of your life. Who knows? But the ones that bothered me a lot were where anybody got hurt or really disturbed, and not that it happened on the ranch. It was when they left the ranch, as you say, hitchhikers.
So let's move further. I will I will move further with the explanation from the book, covered then by drawings, sketches, and impressions and perception of the viewers. And I already do this in 3 parts, so it will be easier to follow if you don't know very much about this phenomenon. So let's start. The energetic encounter, I call it. Jonathan Axelrod got there on July 2009. On his first walk around the ranch, near one of the most famous spots for multi-paranormalists, he, with other 2 companions, Jim Costigan and David Willison, suffered an extremely unpleasant and frightening experience. They had a strange feeling of anxiety as they walked further, that escalated into mortal fear in parallel with the big decrease in local temperature, less than 20 degrees colder for that particular spot. James Costigan was the only one from them who was having night vision scope and saw, 50 yards ahead, a massive oval structure of blackness, described as like light has been extinguished there, of about 8 feet tall, surrounded by the night scope's normal green color. The other 2 saw nothing at all. They silently agreed to leave the place, and as they did, their fear decreased and the temperature started to rise. The next day, all of them packed up and went to their homes. So let's see what the viewer saw. Dennis saw this exactly black oval structure that was described earlier, and he has sensation like I want to enter, and he thought it was like intentional. He thought of wormhole, like an opening, as if it gets pulled inside. The opening also bends or leans toward the object, moving it forward. He also had this black sketch. I like this because the glow around could be the vision that Costigan has with the night scope. He saw, and he says it was empty, cold, like a window, tunnel, or portal. There is light on the other side, which is very interesting. According to the news that was coming in the late years. The tunnel, the portal, it's the most common perception that they have, all the viewers, around this subject. Let's see Daz. Daz was having this tunnel, this vortex type, an opening feel to this, like a gateway, a feeling of movement into time and space, like a portal, he says. And he drew this significant, beautiful, glowing, radiant light, and he also have had an owl as being alive. Naim also had this funnely vortex shape. He was asking himself, it was in the air. He felt it was artificial. It's like it was a mysterious appearance, like a suction. Again, the phenomenon of suction, it's encountered at least 3 or 4 viewers. Reminds him of weather modification. He felt it was like air currents, like turbines, and he also thought of portal and stargate. Again, he was having later the double helix pattern on this energy, and he felt it was like the plasma. He says it was bright fluorescent glows like the neon. He also sensed it was very fine particulated, with light density, reflection, with incident rays, also a trans. I don't recall exactly all. Sorry. Now we see the location here, which very much is close to the location where the phenomenon is happening. He saw this energetic in the air, which he thought it was wispy. He also felt it was like electricity everywhere, energy acting, like a hot weather or something. He saw the surface as it was. He had senses of lightning, energy which strikes there. Darby was having the same black, dark object, and he said that he might glow at times. He also felt it was something that was affected by energetics. His senses like Naim, the lightning or in the air, as like lightning in the air. Think of gravity waves, of magnetize. Also saw like energetic waves, and frequency noise came to his mind. Cloud again. Also he saw this structure energetic, which is felt it was electronic with spark, electric also sharp structure energetic. Coral had interesting facts also. He saw this toroidal field, which is very interesting with this shape here. She says it feels like being sucked down. It feels like power G, like cutting a tunnel or entering the stratosphere. It feels like a very strong, pushing, powerful moving down. It feels like there is a moving piece working its way down, which is contained in a tunnel. The shape of the tunnel feels significant. She was having this draw also, which she felt she was like a geometric energy creation, which was radiating but hollow, with a psychic pattern, which she says it was going out of the planet. She felt it was constructed with out of the world technology, and it feels like it's been constructed as it goes, which is very much pretty close like the thing that Henny has had in her session too, with the self-assembling things there. Cora also has like something that was becoming powerful, entering dar, attraction feeling, nuclear plutonium field. She's have like also Henny has had the same type of drawing and a felt of radiation there. Tonally like, he says, and also have a straight cat as an owl also, like the river Styx, which is very interesting. Let's go to Henny's. Henny also have this beautiful draw here, which he felt it was like a sun coronal mass ejection. She felt it was round, streamy, bright, radiating tunnely. Sorry for covering this many drawings here. She also had at some point something that was like a helix, which Naim also had in his session, which was floating upward, black light many, rising upwards, whirling, pillory, like starling flocking, she says. And also like that's the same type of tunnel vortex shape, dark around, hollow, long, meandering, tubular section, ringy parts, transparent blue ring, the idea of funnel or vortex, which she felt it was extremely quick, accelerating, bumpy and twisting around. She also drew this, which was like an electromagnetic field with this kind of hollow inside, the forces that are there maybe, and the sense of warping poking through, and also the fluidity of the place. And this was a draw which resembled pretty much with the corals, which they thought it was poofy, expanding, flashingly cold, fiery looking, glowy. In her session she also said he was radiating with radiation. Rick has this interesting feature, like a nexus, and this jaw is very much like the molecular, the atom parts, the electrons and the proton and the electron, which were, I don't know, this is, I'm pushing too much maybe. Okay, he thought it was a constant turning within, with a fluid motion, also constant turning and an idea of matter, energy and motion. So now we are to the carrier and the infectious agent. Of course, the carrier, we're thinking of Jonathan Axelrod. The infectious agent, we still don't know what it is, but let's see what's happened next. 3 days after leaving the farm, strange phenomena started to happen in Jonathan Axelrod's home, not to him but to his family. A large humanoid shape appeared to his wife Ruth in their bedroom. Another 3 days later, his 2 teenagers saw outside the house in the backyard a huge wolf-like creature, 7 foot tall, standing on 2 legs and staring at them menacingly, as also Ruth saw earlier. Within a few months of his return from Skinwalker Ranch, every member of his family had experienced orbs in their home. For more than a dozen years following July 2019 and subsequent trips to the ranch, Axelrod's family was subjected to nightmarish dogmen, also blue, red, yellow, and white orbs floating in their home, and black shadow people standing over their beds when they awoke. Axelrod's wife suffered health effect, being diagnosed with systemic lupus erythematosus and Raynaud's syndrome, which is an autoimmune disease. Both teenagers suffered intense flu-like symptoms after being attacked by blue and red orbs in their bedrooms. So imagine Paul Axelrod, which is the son of Jonathan. Imagine Paul Axelrod's shock when he was approached by one of his school friends in 2011, who told him that on the previous night he had looked out his bedroom window and had witnessed a large wolf-like creature standing outside his bedroom looking at him. A few weeks later, another friend told Paul of seeing strange blue lights flying around his backyard. This revelation by the 2 friends came without prompting from Paul. So the carrier, Jonathan Axelrod. Jonathan Axelrod was and is a highly decorated officer, a veteran who went on many operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, a warrior, the consummate military professional with huge experience in the intelligence community. He is far from being considered a weak person. The uncanny temporal crossover between the normal common events on Skinwalker Ranch and the literal explosion of bizarre anomalies at their home 2,000 miles east in suburban Virginia led Jonathan to the inescapable possibility that something has attached to itself to him while he was at the ranch, and that he had brought that something home with him. Either this was a complete coincidence, or he, Jonathan Axelrod, was responsible for the creepy, disturbing unfolding of bizarre activity that was slowly overtaking his home. So let's go to the coral drawings. Let's see. This is very interesting because she came up with this drawing of a cat-like people, a jaguar people also, and also this, which is very animalistic, let's say, but with an opposable thumb, she says. And this is very, very dog-like. Maybe wolf-like creature, who knows? Let's move on. Daz. At some point, she says that Noel, as a child, was involved later in the session, in the event, probably Jonathan's sons. She was coming with this explanation of what were the issue of the life which was involved there. And he felt that he was confused, like PTSD syndrome survival, confusion, an intrusion, invasion of thoughts. His skin, his hair was very weakened. The liver was damaged. The internal organ, the urinary bowel, was with problem issues for a while. With digestion issue, the bones was brittle. So lots of medical issues here. He also saw this live male, which he says it was live male, over 30s, aggressive, scared, worried, concentrated, with an aura of militaristic soldier feel. He saw this being which was engulfed in a mass of energy, and he says that looks, feels very Star Trek materials for him. He thought the energy sparkles were integrated in the life and energy. This is a beautiful sketch, like a resume of all, a life enveloped in energy. Dennis was coming with this person which was thinking of what's happened to him and these colors of energy which was around him. And he says the person's life is very calm but inspiring, a forward thinker, a strategist with an advanced intellect. He thought it was stoic, still, calm demeanor. He says the energy comes in through the crown, hits heart chakra, and then expands in all direction, expands beyond the body, and also begins to output the same way it came in. He described as a transference of information from session. He says also about him that he has a subtle awareness of the presence, but not consciously perceived. Let's go to him now. He had his jaw. He thought it was an abductee, like an implant or a transplant, a carrier, a vessel, a useless unit, he says, which is very interesting also, and fun, but not in a good way. He saw this being who was passing between two worlds, like a gateway, half in, half out, like moving through an energy gate. And this is a side view, this is a front view of the gateway. He also saw this artificial energy which transport, reduce, transmit, and he felt the life is discombobulate. Darby says that felt that someone was intoxicated. Someone was with the US government relation. He also said it was a scientist with goggles. He says it was a relationship between the life form which is human to another life form. He has had an image of a salt shaker, but one consumed by the other, which is very interesting. Let's see what Henny says. Henny was having this life enveloped in a spiral type of energy which was acting upon him. She thought it was a lying down life form which was lying dizzy, impaired, with sight and hearing impaired. She thought it was a male, bold, white skin, purple or blue hues, wearing dark gray, controlling and looking at a man-made. So now we are going to the source of infectious, the agent, and its purpose. So Kelleher took into consideration in an infectious disease model to try to shed some light on the phenomenon with a slightly resemblance to the transmission of an infectious agent between individuals. Utilizing this terminology, Axelrod was the index case who was first infected on Skinwalker Ranch and carried the infectious agent 2,000 miles home to Virginia with him. Within a few days or weeks, the agent had spread from Axelrod to his family and to friends of his children. The scientists came with different theories on spreading of this phenomenon. 3 scientific investigations had thus far failed to explain most of the incidents and sightings that have been reported over the years, so the mysteries persist. So let's see what Dennis has to say. He felt it was like a malevolent dark virus. He also drew this magnificent mushroom type shaped, and he have an idea of mushroom forest or inner machine parts, and he says it was surrounded by multiple life form, and he doesn't know if they are containing within, as if they go in and upwards. He says he has an AOL as mycelium and some drawings here that with a life form which resembles human and mycelium. He thought it was into the complexity of the mind-body interface, like a parasite, which is another interesting idea. He said, as if this new frequency interacts with multiple frequency in a certain way, hits critical mass and then bursts, sending a signal outwards to everything. A new idea is born, a new paradigm. If you think of the mushroom, when the mushroom is spreading its spores, it's like puffing, an explosion of spores at the climax moment in order to spread his seeds. So it's very interesting as a parallel. He felt it was a new idea which was spread to everything else, but it felt it like was a harmonization. It's a burst and spread and dissemination. Darby also had his interesting thing, his mushroom, and he felt like this represent like a gift, a cloning, a way forward for someone. He had this sketch which reminds him of a life form, and he says, what does this represent? He asked himself, and he says it's an image of a mushroom, something psychedelic, in relationship of a life form human to another life form, and again one consumed by the other. And the entire session he was having these little spider-like bugs which were attached to the hand of someone. Maybe it's a symbolic or metaphysical representation, a concept of somebody which is attached as something that is attached to the human life form and then carry away. Coral also had that is caused by the energy. They come up through energy, and she was having this interesting straight cat, Pac-Man. And she felt as though they are blockers and cleaners. They move through pushing aside debris, engulfing and swallowing up other stuff. It feels like it will be difficult to just put them back when they got out of control. In an ERV session, which means an extended remote viewer session, she says, I see a dark space which is suddenly pressurized and squeezed, closed like a balloon, and this creates a permeable membrane through which they wash like creature in a wave breaking on the shore, which is very interesting again. She was having this sketch, and she felt it was like small railing movement. And what are these creatures, she's asked. She's really moving through something. She says she's creeping. Was something moving down under an overhang with almost stumbling, juddering, clattering alone in a kind of a rift, doing a kind of a Pac-Man stream, and when they bump into others, they inglobate them. It reminds her of lymphocytes. And she says they are multiple, small, have a simple intelligence, are fast-moving, get fired up, and anxious, and aggressive, but also flock together and stick close for comfort. They have rudimentary emotions and act as a flock. Let's go to Daz again. He says he felt like an experimentation film, an action against the will of a life, which was encapsulated, which was lying down, which was examined, probed, and felt fearful and very scared. He says that this felt and looks like the migraine flashes, and she also says the life there are shadow-like, like less physical, more frequencies, more vibration from another pitch tone. They all are non-physical, non-human in form, are loosely human shaped, not defined, wispy, ghost-like, smoky shadows. Friendly, but surprised I'm here. They can feel, see me. Naim has also this life with the energy coming from up, which already know from the other viewers, Darby and Dennis. He says it was related to the acupuncture points. His energy contained, it's felt a sense of permeability to this, with light, a sense of digital copy which is saved in the system. It felt it was a drama. He saw some particular paths for this, which are related to the acupuncture points. He said he have had ideas of prana, life force, vitality, reservoir, holotropic pranayama. He also having this description of a life male, encompassed, filled, flooded, the AOL as a Travis Walton abduction, which does also have it at some point in his session. He felt it was bright light energy. And then go to Henny with this sketch, which was very geometrical shaped, and she felt it was like glowing energy, radiant, opaque, emitting, transmitting, energy amplifying, booby trap, no trespass, she says, like a biological device, scanning, overseeing, watching, monitoring. She has an AOL as nanotech, self-assembling. The origin is foreign, result of a falling structure, she says. So something that in her session appeared that it was long ago happened. Not belonging, out of place, screen, filtering, invisible, trigger mechanism, cat and mouse, guards and prisoners. She also felt it was like shard, departiculated, dust-like, vertical, aligned, geometrical, in a wireframe formation, ignition, fire up, booting. Sorry. Also, Henny, very, very early in her session, named the location of the target. He says, like, Utah, which was very interesting and nice. Let's go to Rick. Rick has strange things also. He felt it was like a causal agent, small, stretching, chemical smell with terrible taste, together as though connected for a purpose, as though folded itself. He have had this idea of symbiotic, living entity, connecting, living, digesting, feeds off, and an AOL as a robot. This magnificent draw, which reminds me of a brain. He felt it was rubbery and flexible, an idea of symbiotic there. He also felt it was like a brain, which was carved around smooth, contain, also said. And he also have this AOL as a black dog, which we know already it was happened in the history of this person. So let's go to the mechanism. Coral says it feels like they are being handled, moved, or magnetized to movements and feelings by their handlers, which they are not aware by the large extent. It feels they are blockers and cleaners moved through pushing aside debris, engulfing and swallowing up other stuff. It feels like it will be difficult to just put them back when they get out of control. Rick says it is like a transition, a change, a cause and effect. A catalyst is required for the change and growth, or growth. Expanding. Upon application of the catalyst, primary purpose appears to be growth of something that can be developed into something of a higher awareness, almost sentient. Man is the host. This higher awareness is already in a crossover. It's overlapping with Daz perception, Danny's perception, that somehow it's a positive thing after all. Let's go to name. They are changed. He is changed, reconfigured, transported, concept of body double, clone or copy replication. Power surge, discharge of electrons, double helix pattern, energetics, plasma units. Life is encompassed, filled and flooded with bright light energy. Energy goes into and through the body through pathways related to acupuncture points. Life is an abductee. They may have been implanted and used as a carrier or a correspondent, a vessel, a useful idiot, he says. Darby also said the bodies are related to the concept of processing something, is being processed something that is very coveted. There appears to be an object, perhaps a machine that is involved in the processing. There is something that looks like a fetus. It appears to be related to a sweet, gooey product that is manipulated and eventually consumed. The human life consumed this gooey food. Gooey, the goo thing was appearing in Henny's session, in Daz's session, also in Danny. It's a very common thing in all the sessions here. There appears to be an external structure that emits energetics. Henny says it was radioactive, expanding tunnel, invisible for a human eye. A geometrical structure, pillar, programmed, automated. Particulated energy structure, vortex helix-like, again like all they said. With concept of matter, antimatter, dark matter, self-assembling nanotechnology, which was very important and interesting because I found new research and new studies about nanotechnology, which I think in the future will come up to this like type of AI nanobots self-assembling themselves with maybe a lone intelligence, but a group intelligence, like she said, like a flock intelligence at some point. Daz said it was a communion between man and other. It's a swirling energy vortex, a byproduct of energy, a fluid gel inserted orally, sterilite test, exposed to radiated energy. So what's the purpose, the reason of this phenomenon? Let's move on. See what's happened. Thus, he says, life is a part in human history culture. This feels like a life will go on to change things by its action after being assimilated internally. This internal process is intentional, slow, and it takes years, but it's also damaging in some regards. The seed is being planted, need time to grow. It takes fully long years to happen, mental seeds. This feels written about in a book, books discussed, discovered, argue about. It's about change subtly and slowly in attitude, social global consciousness, a sense of overtime, allowing us humans to become more self-aware of ourselves on a larger picture, not so selfish. Key intersection points, time in human history when we are encouraged or manipulated, a sense of a journey. Humans, like a seed of many planted and grown, they altered time and space. We all benefit from this interaction. This is their garden, we are parts of their seeding process. It's an overall feel of peace, serenity and understanding, enlightenment, fulfillment, a sense of community and place. Again, Darby was coming with some ideas like this is contents used for break, open sky, building, imagining an emerging soup part of a song, he says. They are consuming another non-human life form. This may have a psychedelic effort that allows travel through what could be called a nexus or portal. The human life is involved in creating a power hierarchy. He says it's like a spray with tentacles which are toxic. Many hands reach to this. Something is being processed. It's a way forward for someone. They ride across the globe, he says. It is considered a gift, a way forward. There is data indicating an invention of some type, again with data representing the entire Earth. Perhaps it has far-reaching effects. Dennis also come with some interesting perceptions. So the purpose is to witness, to observe and report. Later, in a long term, when ideas are realized, they bear fruits and they prosper if given the right nourishment. But what do you give in exchange? You are an incubator, a processor. This is a soul growth. Mental terraforming, plant the seed, follow the roots and watch it sprout. New idea, harmonization, burst and spread, dissemination. Spiritual development from this point will spread to a larger community akin to spiritual gardening. They are gardeners, nourishing their crops. For all mankind, sight, memory, remembrance as a function of time, dissemination of code, awareness, awakening. A benevolent plant to spread love and joy. Nam also said the life is changed, reconfigured, abducted, transported, clone or copy replication. Life is encompassed, filled and flooded with the bright light energy. This is associated with change in DNA, encoders, lipids. Life is an abductee that might have been implanted and been used as a carrier or correspondent vessel as a useful idiot. This energy is data download, like BIOS firmware upgrade. Intelligent design, the blueprints of life, a digital copy or light body is saved in the system. Life force, pranayama. And this is the end. And thank you very much. And for the conclusion here, I would like to say just that anyone who sees this, I encourage him to come with his own conclusion, because it's such a complex issue, problem, still unsolved mystery in a way. So you must come with your own idea and you must search to see what's happened there. So until the next, bye, see you.